What's up, welcome back to Bangkok in Thailand. We are live. Let me know in the chat if you're watching this live. I would appreciate. Today, I want to share with you basically three reasons why I believe honestly that every trader should trade professionally. And by that, I mean every trader should at least learn to trade for other people, manage money for investors or prop firm or whatever. You can decide to go with a prop firm, trade for prop firm, which is easy to get now online these days, or you can find investors and trade for them. And this is not big. You don't do this because you want to have capital necessarily, but you do it for some reasons that I want to share with you today. And the first one, it's quite simply because, first of all, let me give you some background on that a little bit in the past. So, I used to basically trade for myself in the beginning. When I began to trade, I learned to become quite good and consistent in trading. And then over time, I kind of realized that I couldn't be able to scale or go full time without having external capital. And so then I didn't know what to do. I tried to kind of learn what I could do back then. And I came across one day an investor that kind of gave me money to trade for him. That was for me a big turning point in my trading career, but I didn't really plan it to be that way. I kind of didn't know what to do at all. It just happened naturally. But what I realized is that even though I got capital from that and I was able to trade bigger accounts over time, that idea of trading professionally and trading for other people taught me a lot of things that I could not have learned otherwise. It would have been really hard to learn that if I didn't have that experience with investors and yeah, in I guess a private investor. So here's what I learned by trading for an investor like this. And there's three main things that are really hard to learn otherwise. The first one is I learned communication. When you trade for yourself, you don't have to communicate with anyone. You just trade, you're good or you're not good or whatever, but you don't talk to anyone, right? So when you trade for investors or even prop firms, you gotta communicate. You gotta share with them some reports on a weekly basis or monthly basis of what happened that week or that month. You gotta be able to talk with them when tough times happen, when you have a drawdown. You gotta talk with them when things go well. You gotta talk with them about your strategy, what you trade in the market, because they want to know what you do in the market a little bit. Some people want to know that. So you need to be able to articulate what you do to non-trading people, and that can be hard at times. But by trading for an investor, I learned how to communicate with people that don't know about trading much, and that means that I can get more capital more easily. First of all, but second thing is I can reach a bigger number of people, bigger audience that could be interested in like investing, or they could have questions about it. They can help them out start trading, and that's a good thing, right? But I couldn't learn this without trading for an investor or someone external that didn't know much about trading. Second thing I learned, which is really important, is how to manage discomfort and uncertainty. So oftentimes we are, as traders, kind of have uncertain a little bit. We can be like not sure about things, or we have a few losses, we feel bad, or we feel not comfortable. But what about taking this like at the next level, where I learned by trading for an investor things like, now I have a lot more money to trade with, right? So I began myself. I had like a $8,000 account before. I got this money from an investor, $70,000. I'm at like say like $80,000 or so now, right? Back then. So that's a jump. So you're gonna feel uncomfortable first. You're gonna feel not certain about your action. You're gonna second guess yourself. But you gotta be able to go there to be able to learn how to deal with that. Otherwise, it's really hard to deal with discomfort if you didn't experience it in your trading career. So these things can be really important, and it really teaches you how to deal with your mindset more. And I found that trading for an investor made me much more serious about things sometimes. Some things I was doing myself when I was trading alone that I was like, it's fine. I can do this later, or I can push it back, whatever. But when trading for someone else, you don't want to do it. You don't want to push it back. You want to do it right now because the stakes are higher. There's more pressure, and it feels like a more like a job where you have to perform for that person. So that's something that I learned by trading for investors. And uncertainty also. Like, what if you have a drawdown trading for an investor? You're going to be uncertain and unsure yourself, but you have to be able to recover. So being able to switch back from uncertainty and discomfort to confidence and taking action is really tough. It's a tough thing to do, and you gotta be able to cook. You kind of have it's one thing when you have to be stuck to learn how to do it the right way. So I learned how to be able to go back on track. I learned how to use meditation to be able to deal with my uncertainty and discomfort better, and how to perform well no matter what happens. That was a big one. And the third thing I learned from that training for investor and trading professionally period of my life was how to understand even more trading metrics. So most people, they know trading metrics. It's like, oh, okay, my win rate, this and that, average win, and they're fine with it. But there's a lot more you can go to learn about metrics. The first one I learned, which was really important, also, is the compliance level. How compliant are you with your plan? The other one are all these, like these other metrics, like the alpha, the beta, all these things you can learn. You can learn about all these different metrics that can make a big difference. And investors, they sometimes care about them because they can see them on different other assets. So they want to know, is it worth it to go with you or with other people? Or, or other people, like other funds, because you compete with like hedge funds, you compete with the stock market, you compete with the S&P. If you cannot produce returns that are as good as the S&P compared to the risk of the S&P, then no one should give you money to trade. But you gotta be able to, and that comes back to communication. You gotta be able to explain your things the right way, and have the investor trust you as well. And that's something that can be tough to instill trust in an investor. So I kind of didn't learn this at all myself. I just kind of, I would say, wing it at first, but it's something I learned to do over time. How to be able to explain things and understand the metrics, and also not talk about too many things. Like some people, some traders, they think that they should tell everything. Like, oh, I do this and that. I look at this indicator, this period on this time frame. But sometimes the investor doesn't care. Sometimes you can say too much, where the investor is confused and is not gonna know what to do after. It's like, I'm not sure. It looks complicated. Is a method. So you want to be able to kind of tell things that are just enough for that person to be able to understand and trust you and give you money to trade. That's something you have to learn. So point of this is, I think everyone should be able to trade for investor. I think it's a good thing to do, not for the capital, but for the experience you get and the knowledge you're going to accumulate with that experience. And if you want to be able to learn that, I've linked below this video in the description a training I've done recently, a full like 1 hour and a half training about how to get funded, how to get capital from investor, what to do with it, what steps you have to go through, and what you have to do to be able to scale to $1.2 million from prop firms. We talk about these prop firms like FTMO, 5%ers, because these are the easiest one these days to be able to get funded with. And they're shortest in time. You don't have to go meet investors. You don't have to produce reports. They will just fund you and give you capital if you can perform and produce good result. And we'll teach you how to do that in the training. So that's going to be linked below. Check it out. Thank you guys. I appreciate your time, and I'll catch you back here pretty soon.